Good afternoon. Are you comfortable? Yes? The seats are comfortable? Everything feels pretty good? Wonderful. Now let's get uncomfortable. Close your eyes. What do you picture when I say the word school? Nearly every person in nearly every place in the world pictures something that looks like this. Why are so many schools, you can open your eyes. Why are so many schools set up this way? The answer merits an extensive presentation all in itself, and we heard a lot about that from Barak just a few minutes ago. But in short, the answer is because this setup, in which the teacher delivers information to an essentially passive audience of students who do their very best to absorb and remember it, is highly efficient. It's convenient, and it's comfortable for adults. In most conventional classrooms, the teacher stands at the front. The teacher can see every student at all times. The teacher can control the flow of information. The teacher can plan a lesson minute by minute, if that's what she is asked to do, and make sure that all the information that needs to be covered in the allotted time gets covered. It's convenient, and it's comfortable, and it's predictable. And within each subject, most schools ask their teachers to teach students the tried and true way to do the work. In mathematics, for instance, we teach the straightforward and efficient way to get the right answer. In history class, we decide the events, dates, and concepts that we believe are most important for the students to learn. We pull them out, we write them on the board, and we make sure that students will remember what they learn by telling them, this will be on the test, so you better write it down. School is straightforward, it's predictable, and it's repetitive. And that would be okay if life were straightforward, predictable, and repetitive. And here's the teacher saying, here are the 5 simple steps to a happy and productive life. And the child says, thank you. But life where I live in Washington, D.C., here in Istanbul, and in nearly every community in the world is complex and rapidly changing. As we've just heard from our previous speakers, there are some significant problems that need solving. There are also significant opportunities to do great, productive work in society. Many of the jobs that today's students will have available to them when they grow up don't even exist yet. If we want our students to develop the skills that they'll need, the ability to strengthen their communities, and the ability to contribute productively to society, they're going to need to develop critical thinking and imaginative problem-solving skills. And if we want them to develop these skills, then we need to make a very big change in the way that we think about school. But I don't need to convince you. You're here today because you're change makers. And you have the same job that I have, to engage our skeptics and challenge them to rethink their assumptions about children and about school. So that's a big job. Where do we start? Let's start with a question. What if we based our schools on the assumption that young people are innately curious, that they want to learn, and that they are born with the capacity to grapple with complex problems and invent useful solutions? This is not fantasy. Brain research shows that young people, and happily old people too, learn best when we grapple with important, complex problems. What if we went even further and based our schools on the idea that young people have the capacity to come up with solutions to complicated problems in society? What if we stopped looking at young people as empty heads to fill and instead started looking at them as the owners of powerful minds who need to learn how to use those minds well? If we were bold enough to ask those questions, we might be ready to begin to change the way that we teach children in schools. But seriously, realistically, how are we going to do that? How are we going to create that change? There are a lot of people who've been working on this. There are a lot of education leaders trying to create education reforms. Some are devising new inquiry-based curricula that are much more engaging for students. Others are building new kinds of schools with room for flexibility and innovation. And some are shining a light on models of student-driven education, just as the Ashoka Changemaker School Network is doing here in Turkey, in the United States, and across the world. In fact, my two daughters, who are here with us today, both attend an Ashoka Changemaker School in Washington, D.C. But the Changemaker schools are the shining exception. They are not the norm. There's one voice. So how do we make that the norm? There's one voice that's critically missing from most education reform debates. And if we can include that voice, I think we can shift the norm. Can you guess what it is? It's teachers. If you're a teacher or have ever been a teacher, raise your hand. Who's a teacher? Wonderful, wonderful. So many teachers here today. I'm a teacher too. There I am in the back. My very first teaching job with my 6th grade students, 25 years ago. So let me ask my fellow teachers a question. What if we radically change the way we do our jobs? What if parents and education policymakers change their expectation for the role of the teacher? What if we ask teachers to stop playing the conventional and comfortable role of information provider and instead become instigators of thought? An instigator of thought is a teacher who's a change maker, who teaches students to drive their own learning and who teaches students to become change makers themselves. So how can we do this? How can we change the role of the teacher? Well, first, we have to completely shift our understanding, as we heard from our previous speakers. We have to completely shift our understanding of what a child is and what a child is capable of. And then, we have to change the way we prepare teachers to enter the profession and the way we continue to support them throughout their careers. So to my teacher friends, does this look familiar? Right? This is a picture of teachers in a professional development session. It looks a lot like the traditional classroom we saw a few minutes ago. They're sitting around a table, taking notes. There's an expert at the front telling them some very important information about how to do their jobs. Most professional development for teachers is designed to help teachers do the very same thing, maybe a little bit better. Deliver instruction better, maintain discipline better, provide information a little more effectively. It's comfortable, it's familiar, it's predictable. But if we want to change the way we educate young people, then we have to change the way that we teach teachers. So here are some teachers in a very different kind of professional development. They are learning to design inquiry-based lessons that will engage their students in learning through play as they master important mathematical concepts. Here they are again in the same professional development session. They are learning Center for Inspired Teaching's process for teachers. Observe, plan, instigate. At Center for Inspired Teaching, we have been teaching teachers to become instigators of thought for 20 years. Our teachers work with students of all ages and all subject matter, and they work to build in their students what we call the 4 I's: intellect, inquiry, imagination, and integrity. No matter what subject, this is what we believe young people should be learning every day in school. 5 years ago, we opened the Inspired Teaching Demonstration School, an Ashoka Changemaker School in Washington, D.C. Every teacher at our school is an inspired teacher, an instigator of thought. And every child has the responsibility and the right to help drive the learning. Students engage in the wonder, experiment, learn process as they help create and enforce rules in every classroom, and as they design and present projects that bring together reading, writing, mathematics, science, history, and the arts. And we have visitors from all over the world come to visit the school to see our model in action. So in addition to modeling inspired teaching, we are also preparing new teachers to become change makers and to see teaching as a long-term profession. We are also shifting the practice of in-service teachers through transformative professional development that challenges teachers to rethink their role, stop being information providers, the familiar and comfortable role, and instead become instigators of thought. And we're getting results. Our teachers consistently outperform their peers in measures of teacher effectiveness. Our students not only master complicated academic material, but they understand and they can apply it. And our teachers report greater job satisfaction now that they have become instigators of thought and change makers. All of us who are working with the Changemaker Schools, with the Reimagine Learning Network, and with other education initiatives, other innovative education initiatives, we are all modeling student-led teaching and learning. It is joyful work, but it takes us outside of our comfort zone. And that's great, because we must step outside of our comfort zones in order to learn. So let me pose a challenge to my colleagues here as we work to shift the norm. What if we challenged our colleagues who prepare new teachers to enter the profession? What if we challenged them to prepare teachers to be change makers? What if we challenged our colleagues who provide professional development to teachers, to in-service teachers, to support those teachers in shifting their role from information provider to instigator of thought? And what if we challenged parents, policymakers, and other education influencers to radically rethink what they expect teachers to do? We don't need to rebuild the education system. We do need to rethink how we hope young people will spend their time in school and how we ask teachers to do their jobs. We live in a rapidly changing world, as we well know. It requires us to collaborate. It requires us to think critically and grapple with complicated problems, to figure out how to live alongside people with whom we may disagree, and to respond productively to change. Thank you all for inviting me here to help fuel your work and for fueling mine. I look forward to continuing to work together to rethink our expectations for students, teachers, and school.